Hello, my name is Bodie Dwyer, 27 years old. I'm a freelance journalist living off social commentary pieces published on Substack, where I tell stories that no one notices or stories that people deliberately ignore. I live in Denver, Colorado, a city where every morning golden sunlight filters through the Rocky Mountains, casting long shadows over bustling streets. Denver is a crossroads between the modernity of gleaming glass buildings and the wildness of nature. Roads that lead straight to the plains where you can hear the wind singing through clusters of pine trees. But I don't belong to the busy streets or the trendy coffee shops here. I belong to the small corners, the old bars with worn wooden stools where I sit and write, typing line after line on my beat-up laptop, trying to find meaning in the messy stories of human lives. I'm not the kind of person who likes talking about myself. Honestly, I prefer listening. But if I must say something, I'm probably just an ordinary guy who likes wearing faded denim jackets, listening to 90s rock music, and has a habit of drinking black coffee every morning, even though the bitter taste sometimes makes me wince. My home in Denver is a tiny apartment on the third floor of an old building. My room's window overlooks a narrow alley where stray cats chase each other at night. It's nothing special, but it's where I write, where I think, and sometimes where I wonder what I'm doing with my life. My family doesn't live here. They're in Nebraska in a small town called Fairview, the kind of place you could drive through in the blink of an eye. Fairview is the sort of town where everyone knows each other's names, knows that the neighbor's apple tree has pests, or that the grocer's wife just had a fight with her husband. There, my parents own an auto repair shop and a small convenience store. My dad, Charlie Dwyer, runs the repair shop, the pride of our family. He's a tall man with hands stained by engine oil, always boasting that there's no car he can't fix. My mom, Ellen, runs the convenience store next door. She's a strong woman, always smiling at customers, but behind that smile is constant worry for the family. Both of them have a bit of a reputation in Fairview, the kind of reputation a small town gives to those who've dedicated their lives to it. Then there's my younger brother Noah, 2 years my junior. Noah's a banker, working at Fairview's only bank branch, where people deposit their savings to buy land or pay off debts. Noah's different from me in that he's more organized, more disciplined. While I like living freely, wandering around to find material for my writing, Noah prefers stability. He wears a suit every day, his hair neatly combed, and he's always talking about building a future. Just last month, Noah called to tell me he's getting married. His fiancée is Brielle Halston, a wealthy young woman from Lincoln, the daughter of a family that owns a famous chain of fashion stores. I haven't met Brielle yet, but from what Noah says, she's the kind of woman who turns heads when she enters a room. Beautiful, intelligent, and a touch haughty. Their wedding is being planned with great fanfare, and all of Fairview is buzzing about it. But the most important person in my family, at least to me, is my grandfather, Walter Dwyer. He's 82, a Korean War veteran who lost a leg in a battle he never talks about in detail. He lives alone in a small wooden house on the edge of Fairview, where he spends his days tending to his vegetable garden and reading old books. My grandfather is the most optimistic person I know. Despite needing crutches to get around, despite the pain from his old wound that flares up when the weather turns cold, he never complains. Instead, he writes me letters. Handwritten letters, penned in ink on yellowed paper. Sent from Fairview to Denver every month. In them, he writes about small things, like the sparrow nesting on his roof or how he brews coffee in an old copper kettle. But between the lines, I always sense a faint sadness, as if he's trying to hide something. My grandfather is the one who inspired me to become a journalist. When I was a kid, he'd tell stories, not about the war, but about people, about courage, about the small but meaningful things in life. He said that everyone has a story worth telling if only someone would listen. That's why I started writing. I want to tell the stories my grandfather would be proud of, stories that might change how people see the world, even just a little. Today is an ordinary day in Denver. I'm sitting in my small apartment, the afternoon sunlight fading through the window. On the table is a cold cup of coffee and my laptop open to an email from a major newspaper in New York, inviting me for an interview for a position in their newsroom. It's a big opportunity, the kind any freelance journalist would dream of. But I haven't replied. I don't know why I'm hesitating. Maybe I'm not ready to give up my freedom, or maybe I'm thinking about something else. Noah's wedding. The wedding is happening this weekend at a luxurious hotel in Lincoln, chosen by the bride's family. Noah has called me a dozen times, reminding me to show up on time. "Bodhi, you have to be there," he said, his voice full of excitement. "It's the most important day of my life, and you have to wear a proper suit, not that tattered denim jacket of yours." I laughed and promised I'd be there, though I know I don't own a decent suit. But what excites me isn't the wedding itself. It's the chance to see my grandfather again. I haven't been back to Fairview in nearly a year, and his letters make me miss him terribly. I want to bring him to the wedding, to see him smile, to hear him tell his old stories again. But there's something unsettling in my heart. I can't explain it. Maybe it's because of Noah's recent messages when he talked about the bride's family. "They're a bit different from us," he said, his voice hesitant. "They live in a different world. But Brielle's great, you'll like her." I'm not sure if I'll like Brielle or not, but I trust Noah. He always knows how to see the good in people. Still, I can't shake the feeling that this wedding won't be as simple as a joyful day. Something's waiting, like a quiet storm gathering in the sky. I stand up and walk to the small bookshelf in the corner of my room. On it is an old wooden box where I keep my grandfather's letters. I take out the most recent one and read it. His slanted handwriting comes to life. "Bodhi, how are you? Yesterday I saw a hawk fly over the garden. It flew so high as if it knew it belonged to the sky. You're like that, Bodhi. Don't let anyone pull you down." I smile, but my eyes sting. He always knows how to make me feel important, even though I'm just a writer struggling with life. I fold the letter carefully and place it back in the wooden box. My grandfather's words echo in my mind like an old song you can't stop humming. "Don't let anyone pull you down." I wonder what he was feeling when he wrote those words. Was he trying to remind himself, or does he see something in me that I don't? I shake my head, trying to dispel the unease creeping into my chest. It's time to get ready. Tomorrow morning's flight will take me back to Fairview, to my family, to my grandfather, and to the wedding I'm not sure I'm ready to face. I pack a few clothes into my old backpack, a white dress shirt, a pair of gray slacks I rarely wear, and of course my favorite denim jacket. A suit? I don't have one. Noah will just have to deal with my tattered style. I check my plane ticket on my phone, close my laptop, and take one last look around the apartment. The streetlights outside cast faint glows through the window, creating soft patterns on the wooden floor. Denver is quiet tonight, but in my heart a small storm is brewing. The next morning I'm on a short flight from Denver to Lincoln. The plane is small, the seats cramped, and the smell of cheap coffee from the flight attendant's cart makes me wrinkle my nose. I look out the window, where fluffy white clouds drift below the plane's wings. Nebraska stretches out beneath, with endless cornfields interspersed by red dirt roads and tiny towns like specks on a map. I think of Fairview, the smell of engine oil in my dad's repair shop, my mom's smile as she hands me a cold can of Coca-Cola from the convenience store. And above all, I think of my grandfather, the way he sits in his old armchair, crutches by his side, telling stories with eyes sparkling like a young boy's. When the plane lands, I rent an old car, a faded green Ford with frayed upholstered seats. I drive straight to Fairview, bypassing Lincoln, where the wedding will take place. I want to see my grandfather first. The road to Fairview is unremarkable, just straight stretches flanked by grasslands and weathered wooden fences. The car radio plays a Tom Petty song, and I turn up the volume, letting the melody drown out my wandering thoughts. But as I turn onto the road leading to my grandfather's house, my heart beats faster. His small, simple wooden house comes into view, nestled in a lush vegetable garden. The white picket fence is peeling and the iron gate creaks when I push it open. I spot my grandfather immediately. He's sitting on a stool in the garden wearing an old baseball cap, holding a small hoe, carefully weeding around a row of tomato plants. His crutches lean against an apple tree nearby. I park the car, turn off the engine, and step out. The smell of damp earth and fresh grass hits me, pulling me back to childhood summers when I'd run through this garden chasing yellow butterflies. "Bodie," my grandfather's voice rings out, raspy but full of life. He looks up, squinting in the sunlight. "You're back? Why didn't you let me know so I could prepare something nice?" I grin, hurrying over to hug him. He's thinner than the last time I saw him, but his embrace is still firm, warm. "Wanted to surprise you," I say, looking into his eyes, still bright, though clouded by age. "Besides, you always have coffee, don't you?" He laughs heartily, standing up with the help of his crutches. "Come inside, kid. I brewed a fresh pot this morning." We step into the small house where everything seems unchanged since I was a boy. The wooden kitchen table is still covered in scratches, the wall clock ticks steadily, and the bookshelf holds dozens of old books my grandfather has read and reread. He pours coffee into 2 chipped white ceramic mugs. We sit on the back porch where a small wooden table and 2 chairs overlook the garden. The sun is rising higher, making the dew on the leaves sparkle like diamonds. "You're here for Noah's wedding, right?" he asks, sipping his coffee. "Yeah," I nod. "But mostly to see you. I want to bring you to the wedding. What do you think?" His eyes light up, but then he shakes his head, smiling faintly. "I'm old, Bodie. It's hard to get around with this leg." He taps his crutches lightly. "I'd just be a burden." "A burden?" I frown. "You're Noah's grandfather, my grandfather. You have to be there. Noah would love it." He looks at me, his smile tinged with sadness. "Noah. He's busy, Bodie. He doesn't call me as much anymore, I understand. It's a big wedding and the bride's family is high class. I'm just an old countryman, you know that." His words stop me cold. I want to argue, to say Noah isn't like that our family doesn't care about high class. But I think of Noah's recent messages, his hesitant tone when mentioning the bride's family. A vague anger stirs in me, its source unclear. We talk for hours. He tells me about the garden, the hawk he saw last week, the letters he's written but hasn't sent. I tell him about Denver, the articles I'm working on, the email from the New York newspaper I haven't answered. He listens, nodding, and sometimes bursts into laughter when I recount spilling coffee on my laptop right before a deadline. But when the wedding comes up, he grows quiet. "You know," he says, looking out at the garden, "during the war, I thought I wouldn't make it back home. But I did. And I thought that was the greatest gift. I don't need much just for my family to be happy." "Noah, he's happy, right?" I want to nod, to say Noah's doing great, that he's marrying a wonderful woman. But I'm not sure. I haven't met Brielle, haven't seen how she treats Noah. I only know that Noah's changed, even slightly. He calls me less, talks less about family. I push the thought away and smile at my grandfather. "Noah's fine, Grandpa. I'll bring you to the wedding and you'll see how happy he is." He gazes at the garden as if weighing his decision. Then he nods, smiling. "All right, Bodie. If you say so, I'll go. But you've got to help me find that old suit in the closet. I don't want to look like I just walked out of a barn." I laugh, relief washing over me. "Deal. But you have to promise not to tell war stories to the guests or they'll run for the hills." This kid daring to tease his own grandfather? He chuckles, clapping my shoulder. After a simple lunch of sandwiches with tomatoes from the garden, I help my grandfather prepare. I find his old gray suit in the closet. It's decades old, the fabric worn at the cuffs, but when he puts it on, he looks dignified, like a soldier heading to battle. He puts on his old baseball cap, but I convince him to leave it behind. "You've got to let people see that handsome silver hair," I tease, and he laughs heartily. We get into the rented Ford, my grandfather sitting beside me, his crutches between his legs. The drive from Fairview to Lincoln isn't long, but I take it slow so he can enjoy the scenery. He points out a cornfield, reminiscing about fishing with my dad at a nearby stream. I listen, but the unease in my chest lingers. Something feels off, though I can't pinpoint what. When we arrive at the Grand Halston Hotel in Lincoln, the sun is dipping toward the west, painting the sky a vibrant orange. The hotel is like a palace, with grand glass doors, a red carpet stretching out, and uniformed staff standing like statues. I park my beat-up Ford among sleek cars, BMWs, Mercedes, even a Rolls-Royce, and feel out of place. But as I help my grandfather out of the car, I sense his quiet resolve in each slow step. He doesn't belong here, but he's not intimidated. Inside, the banquet hall is like a dream. Crystal chandeliers glitter overhead, enormous vases overflow with white roses, and tables are draped in pristine silk. Guests are already numerous, mostly from the bride's side. They wear glamorous evening gowns and perfectly tailored suits, speaking in polished tones. I spot my parents in a corner. Dad in a slightly tight old suit, Mom in a simple but elegant green dress. They wave when they see me and my grandfather, but Mom's eyes hold a hint of worry. I guide my grandfather inside, feeling curious glances turn our way. He walks slowly, leaning on his crutches, each step careful but steady. His old suit stands out among the expensive attire, and I catch a few whispers from the crowd. A middle-aged woman, likely Brielle's mother, murmurs to someone nearby. "Who's that? Why would he wear something like that here?" I clench my fists, suppressing my anger. My grandfather either doesn't hear or pretends not to. He just smiles, taking in the scene as if memorizing it. "It's beautiful," he says to me. "Noah picked a good place." I lead him to a table near the corner where my parents sit. Mom stands to hug him, whispering, "Dad, you made it. You still look as dashing as ever." Dad claps him on the shoulder, talking about the repair shop, but I notice a tension in their eyes, as if they too sense the unease in the air. The rehearsal begins. Noah stands at the center of the hall, looking sharp in a black suit, hand in hand with a woman I assume is Brielle. She's stunning, like a movie star. Golden hair, sharp blue eyes, and a perfect smile. But something in her gaze unsettles me, a confidence bordering on arrogance. When Noah introduces me, she smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "So you're Bodhi, the famous journalist Noah talks about," she says, her voice soft but with a hint of sarcasm. "I read one of your articles. Very interesting." "Thanks," I reply, keeping my tone calm. "You must be Brielle. Noah's told me a lot about you." She smiles, but her eyes flick past me, landing on my grandfather. She pauses, as if just noticing him. "This is Noah's grandfather?" she asks, her voice rising slightly as if masking surprise. "That's right," I say, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Walter Dwyer, the best man you'll ever meet." My grandfather smiles warmly, nodding to Brielle. "Pleasure to meet you, young lady. My grandson's a lucky man." Brielle nods, but her smile stiffens. She says something about needing to prepare for the ceremony and pulls Noah away. I watch them go, feeling like I've been left in the wake of a whirlwind. Noah glances back at me, his eyes tense as if he wants to say something but can't. The rehearsal goes smoothly, but I can't ignore the divide between the two families. The bride's side laughs loudly, boasting about European vacations or business deals. My parents and a few relatives from Fairview are quieter, as if trying to blend into a world that isn't theirs. I start to feel stifled. The air in the banquet hall grows heavier, like an invisible wall separates the two sides. I glance at my grandfather, sitting beside me, lightly gripping his crutches, his eyes scanning the crowd with a gentle smile. But I know he feels the divide, even if he doesn't say it. The soft jazz music continues to play, but it can't dispel the tension coiling inside me. I want to take my grandfather outside, to breathe some fresh air, but I don't want him to feel abandoned. I lean over and whisper, "You okay, Grandpa? Want to step outside for a bit?" He shakes his head, smiling. "I'm fine, Bodhi. Let me watch the crowd for a while." It's been a long time since I've seen such a lively scene. I nod, but my heart isn't at ease. Curious glances still sweep over us, and I catch whispers from a nearby group. A woman in a shimmering sequined dress is saying something to the man beside her, her eyes flicking toward my grandfather. I can't hear the words, but the way she covers her mouth and giggles makes my blood boil. I clench my fists, trying to suppress my anger. This is Noah's event, I tell myself. Don't make a scene. The post-rehearsal dinner has been underway for a while. Servers glide by with trays of delicate food, tiny cuts of steak garnished with basil leaves, glasses of red wine glinting under the chandeliers. My parents sit across from us, chatting quietly with a relative from Fairview, but my mom's eyes occasionally dart to me as if she senses the tension in the air. Noah sits at the head table a few meters away next to Brielle. She looks like a movie star with her glossy blonde hair and a pearl-colored silk dress hugging her figure. But her eyes, sharp and haughty, make me uneasy. Noah looks dashing in his black suit, but I notice his smile is strained as if he's trying to please everyone. I'm cutting a piece of steak, trying to focus on my plate, when Brielle suddenly stands up from the head table and walks toward us. Noah hurries after her, looking like a puppy on a leash. I set my knife and fork down, my heart beating faster. Brielle stops by our table, her perfect smile in place, but her eyes are cold as ice. "Mr. Walter, Bodhi," she says, her voice soft but with an edge that puts me on guard. "I'm so glad you could make it to the rehearsal. But I'd like to discuss something, to clear things up before tomorrow." The table falls silent. My mom looks up, her hand tightening around her wine glass. My dad frowns as if trying to guess what's coming. My grandfather sets down his orange juice, looking at Brielle with calm but wary eyes. I feel blood rushing to my head. "What is it?" I ask, my voice harder than I intended. Brielle crosses her arms, her smile now slightly distorted as if she's struggling to maintain politeness. "The day after tomorrow is mine and Noah's wedding," she says, her voice clear and loud enough for nearby tables to turn and look. "It's an important event and we want everything to be perfect. I'm afraid Mr. Walter's presence might not quite fit with the image of the ceremony." The air around the table freezes. It feels like someone slapped me across the face. Nearby servers pause and several guests at adjacent tables stop talking, turning to stare. I hear whispers rippling outward like waves from a stone dropped in a lake. "Not fit?" I repeat, my voice trembling with anger. "What are you talking about, Brielle?" She sighs, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "I mean, him." She glances at my grandfather, her eyes skimming over his worn suit and the crutches leaning beside him. "He doesn't look appropriate for the occasion. That outfit, the way he moves. We don't want any mishaps embarrassing the family, especially in front of important guests." My blood boils. My grandfather, who survived a war, who sacrificed part of his body for this country, is being called not appropriate? I look at him, and he's staring down, his hand gripping his crutches tightly. His eyes are clouded, not with pain, but with a deep sadness, as if he's used to being dismissed. "You're insulting my grandfather," I say, my voice ringing out clearly, though I try to keep it steady. "He's Noah's family, my family. Who do you think he's going to embarrass, you? Or your family?" Brielle laughs, a sharp sound like a blade. "Oh, Bodhi, don't make a big deal out of this. I just want the wedding to be perfect. He doesn't belong here. You must see that, right?" She glances at his crutches as if they prove her point. I stand abruptly, my chair scraping against the wooden floor. "You don't get to talk about my grandfather like that," I snap. "He's a veteran, a hero. Do you know what he sacrificed? Do you know he survived a war so we could sit here in this fancy hotel?" Brielle raises an eyebrow as if I've said something absurd. "I'm not denying that, Bodhi. But this is the 21st century. No one cares about old war stories anymore. We just want a beautiful ceremony without complications." I turn to Noah, hoping my brother will speak up. "Noah," I say, my voice almost pleading, "did you hear what she said? Are you going to let her insult Grandpa like that? Noah looks down, clutching his wine glass, stammering but unable to form words. His silence cuts me like a knife. I look to my parents, hoping they'll say something, do something. But my mom just bites her lip, her eyes red, and my dad stares at his plate, gripping his cutlery as if holding back. No one speaks. No one stands up for my grandfather. The whispers from nearby tables grow louder, and I feel their eyes like needles on my skin. Enough, my grandfather says, his voice soft but clear, cutting through the stifling silence. If the bride feels uncomfortable, I won't come. I don't want to ruin my grandson's big day. He lifts his head, looking straight at Brielle, his eyes not angry, just sad. I was going to use my military pension to give Noah a gift, a small house for the two of them. But I suppose it's not needed anymore. Brielle laughs, a sound sharper than a blade on stone. Military pension? You mean that measly little stipend? She shakes her head, smirking. Come on, Mr. Walter, we don't need that gift. Keep it for yourself. It feels like someone's choking me. I want to scream in her face, to flip the table in rage. But my grandfather's eyes stop me. He's not angry, not bitter. He just lowers his head, places a hand on his crutches, and says quietly, I understand, young lady. I won't be a bother anymore. I can't take it anymore. We're leaving, Grandpa, I say, my voice trembling with anger and pain. I stand and help him up. The people around us watch, some whispering, some looking embarrassed, but no one does anything. Noah keeps his head down. Brielle stands there with her smug smile, and my parents remain silent. I guide my grandfather out of the banquet hall, each of his steps feeling heavier than 1,000 pounds. The jazz music plays on behind us, but it can't drown out the pounding of my heart. When we reach the hallway, I realize my hands are shaking. I want to shout to the world that my grandfather is the greatest man I've ever known, but I don't. I help him into the old Ford. As we drive away from the hotel, the dazzling lights of the Grand Halston fade behind us, and I feel a vast emptiness in my chest. Noah, my brother, who I always thought would stand up for family, chose silence. And that silence hurts more than any insult. When we reach my grandfather's wooden house in Fairview, it's late. I help him inside, placing his crutches by his armchair. He sits down, sighs, and looks out the window. Stay here tonight, Bodhi, he says. I don't want to be alone. I nod, unable to speak. My heart is full of anger, pain, and a helplessness I've never felt before. I sit on the floor, leaning against his chair, and look at him. He's fallen asleep in his familiar armchair. His breathing steady, but his face carries the sadness I never wanted to see. I pull out my phone and open the email from the New York newspaper. The job offer glows on the screen. I could accept it, leave this mess behind, start a new life. But then I look at my grandfather and I know I can't abandon him. Not now. Not after what just happened. I step out onto the porch. The night breeze is cool, carrying the scent of earth and grass. I look up at the star-filled sky, and for the first time in my life, I feel I need to do something bigger. Not just for my grandfather, but for all the people like him. Those forgotten, insulted, just because they don't fit into someone else's glamorous world. I don't know what I'll do, but I know one thing. I won't stay silent. I step back into the house, moving quietly so as not to wake my grandfather. I sit on the floor, leaning against the leg of his armchair, and pull my laptop from my backpack. The screen lights up, its pale blue glow illuminating my face. I close my eyes and take a deep breath. The image of my grandfather flashes in my mind, his worn-out suit, the crutches propped beside him, and the sadness in his eyes as Brielle hurled her insults. I recall her sharp, cold laugh, Noah's silence, my parents' lowered gazes. It's like a slow-motion film, each frame tightening my chest. I open my eyes and my fingers start typing. I don't think too much. I let my emotions guide me. A soldier turned away from a wedding for dressing out of style. I begin writing, each sentence like a knife cutting into what I witnessed tonight. I write about my grandfather. Not as an old man with crutches and an old suit, but as a soldier. Someone who fought and sacrificed, who lived a life of humility and love. I write about the party, the disdainful glances, the bride's cold words, and my family's shameful silence. I don't name anyone specifically. No Noah, no Brielle, no Fairview, no Grand Halston Hotel. I just write the truth raw and painful. He survived a war carrying scars that no one in that room could comprehend. He came to the event with the pride of a grandfather wanting to see his grandson happy. But he was rejected, deemed an inconvenience simply because he didn't fit the perfect image of a glamorous wedding. I wonder, have we forgotten what makes a person valuable? Do honor, courage, and sacrifice still matter in a world obsessed with appearances? I write without stopping. The words pour out like a river, carrying my anger and my love for my grandfather. I write about the letters he sent me, the garden he tends, the way he always smiles despite life's hardships. I write about the silence of those who should have stood up, should have said something, but chose to bow their heads. And finally, I write about myself, about the helplessness I felt, unable to protect the person I love most. I'm a grandson who witnessed it all. I stood there watching my grandfather be humiliated, and I did nothing. But I can't stay silent anymore. This is his story and the story of all those forgotten just because they don't fit. I hope someone reading these words will remember that sometimes the greatest people are the ones most overlooked. When I type the final period, it's nearly dawn. The first light of morning peeks through the window, bathing the room in a soft golden hue. I glance at the clock, almost 5 in the morning. I've written over 3,000 words, more than any article I've ever done. But this isn't just an article. It's a declaration of war, a cry from my heart. I posted on Substack, setting it to anonymous to protect my family, especially Noah. I don't want to hurt my brother, even though his silence still stings. I hit the publish button and close the laptop. A strange feeling washes over me, part relief, part anxiety. I don't know where this piece will go, but I know I did the right thing. I stand and walk out to the porch. My grandfather is still asleep, his breathing steady. I sit on the steps watching the sunrise spread across the fields. It feels like I've dropped a stone into a still lake. The ripples have started to spread, and I don't know where they'll take me or my family. I must have dozed off for a while because I wake up on the sofa in my grandfather's house, the early morning sunlight filtering through the curtains. My phone is buzzing incessantly, the screen lit up with dozens of notifications. I rub my eyes trying to focus. Substack, Twitter, emails, everything is exploding. I open the Substack app and the view count on my post stops me cold. Over 50,000 views in just a few hours. Comments, shares, likes, everything is surging like a flood. I scroll through the comments, my heart pounding. This is the painful truth about our society, one person writes. Shame on those who disrespect a veteran. Another comments. A self-identified veteran shares the post with the caption, I cried reading this. This is the story of so many of us. The hashtag #RespectVeterans starts trending, spreading across Twitter like wildfire. I can't believe my eyes. The piece I wrote in a fit of anger and pain has reached thousands of people. I stand up and head to the kitchen to make coffee, trying to stay calm. My grandfather is already awake, sitting in the garden with a cup of tea in his hand. What's got you looking so tense, Bodie? He asks, squinting at me. I wrote something about last night, I say hesitantly. About you, about what happened. It's being read by a lot of people. He goes quiet, his hand gently stroking his crutches. What did you write? I sit down beside him, giving a brief overview of the post without going into details. I don't want him to relive the pain. I didn't name anyone, I say. I just wanted people to know how much you're worth and how people like you are treated. He nods, a sad smile on his face. You didn't have to do that, Bodie. I'm old. I don't need anyone to know about me. But I needed to, I say firmly. I couldn't let them disrespect you without consequences. By noon, the post has surpassed 200,000 views. Twitter is ablaze with outraged posts. "Who is this ungrateful bride?" one user writes. "We need to know the names of those who dared insult a veteran." An account claiming to be a Vietnam War veteran shares the post with the status, "I know who this old man is. Walter Dwyer, a true soldier. I met him years ago. The veteran community won't let this fade away." I freeze. How do they know my grandfather? I reread the post, checking every sentence, but I'm certain I didn't reveal any identifying details. Maybe someone from the party recognized him, or an old friend of his pieced it together. Whatever the case, the story is spiraling beyond my control. By the afternoon, rumors start to spread. Some on Twitter speculate that the wedding in the post belongs to a wealthy family in Lincoln. The Halston name begins to surface, though I never mentioned them. Brielle's mother's fashion brand, Halston Couture, gets dragged into the crossfire. A few customers declare on social media that they'll boycott the brand. "No shopping from a family that disrespects veterans," one writes. I feel a bitter satisfaction, but also growing anxiety. I don't want to ruin Noah's life, even though his silence still hurts. I call him, but he doesn't pick up. I text, "I wrote about last night. I didn't name you, but it's spreading. Call me back." No response. My grandfather looks at me as if reading my thoughts. "You're worried about Noah, aren't you?" he asks. I nod. I don't want to hurt him, but I couldn't let this go like it was nothing. He places a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing. Noah will understand sooner or later." By evening, a group of veterans in Lincoln posts on Facebook, calling for the community to gather at the Grand Halston Hotel tomorrow morning, the day of Noah and Brielle's wedding. "We will stand up for Walter Dwyer," the post declares. "We'll show them that a soldier's honor cannot be dismissed." The post is shared thousands of times, and I feel a jolt run through me. What I wrote has sparked a movement, but I'm not sure I'm ready for what's coming. I look at my grandfather sitting in the garden tending to his tomato plants as if nothing has happened. But I know tomorrow won't just be a wedding day. It will be a day that changes everything. I wake up early the next morning and brew a cup of coffee. My grandfather is already up, sitting on the porch with a cup of tea in his hand. "Are you going to the wedding?" he asks, his voice calm but his eyes full of concern. "Yes, Grandpa. But I want you to come with me. Not to cause trouble, but to show everyone who you are. A man worthy of respect," I say. He shakes his head, giving a sad smile. "I don't need anyone to see anything, Bodhi. But if you want me there, I'll go. Just to support you." I nod, feeling a weight like a stone pressing on my chest. I don't know what I'm leading him into, but I can't leave him here alone while the world is talking about him. We get ready quickly. He puts on his old gray suit again, and I wear a white dress shirt and slacks, but I still throw on my favorite denim jacket. I look at him, forcing a smile. "You look sharp, Grandpa," I say. He laughs heartily. "You're just saying that to make an old man happy, aren't you, kid?" We drive to the Grand Halston Hotel. When we arrive, I can hardly believe my eyes. Outside the hotel, dozens of veterans have gathered, dressed in old military uniforms, their chests adorned with medals. They stand in 2 rows like an honor guard, holding signs that read "Honor Walter Dwyer" and "Duty Never Forgotten." Some raise the American flag, the wind making it flutter. The media is there too, local TV news vans, reporters with cameras, and bloggers live streaming on their phones. The atmosphere is tense, like the calm before a storm. I help my grandfather out of the car, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on us. An older man with white hair, dressed in a military uniform, approaches. "You're Bodhi, right?" he asks, his voice deep but warm. "I'm Frank. Served with Walter in Korea. We're here for him." I nod, trying to keep my voice steady. "Thank you, Frank. But I don't want this to turn into a fight." Frank claps my shoulder. "Not a fight, son. This is about respect. Walter deserves respect." My grandfather steps forward, leaning on his crutches, and smiles at Frank. "Still as stubborn as ever, Frank," he says. and they embrace like time hasn't passed. Inside the hotel, I can sense panic spreading. Staff rush back and forth, whispering to each other. A middle-aged woman, likely Brielle's mother, is speaking sharply to security. "Get them out of here," I hear her say. "This is my daughter's wedding, not a protest." But the security guard shakes his head, looking uneasy. "Ma'am, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just standing out there." I guide my grandfather into the banquet hall where guests are gathering. Some look at us with curiosity, others whisper among themselves. I spot my parents in a corner, looking more anxious than ever. I scan the room for Noah, but don't see him. Brielle, however, is standing at the center of the hall in a stunning white wedding gown. Though her face is pale, she glances toward the entrance where the crowd of veterans and media is assembled, and I notice her hands trembling. She knows what's happening. She knows my post has shaken everything. I lead my grandfather to the main entrance of the ceremony hall where the event will take place. I don't say anything, just stand there observing. The media starts pushing in, cameras trained on us. A reporter approaches, holding out a microphone. "You're the one who wrote the Substack post, right? Can you share more about the story?" I shake my head. Today's not about talking. Today's about my grandfather. The wedding ceremony is about to begin. Violin music fills the air, soft but unable to ease the tense atmosphere in the hall. Guests take their seats, but their eyes aren't on the stage. They're glancing toward the entrance where the chants of the veterans outside echo faintly. Brielle stands at the aisle holding her father's arm, but her smile is forced. Noah appears, dressed in his groom's suit, but his face is pale as if he's suppressing a storm of emotions. I stand beside my grandfather, gripping his crutches tightly. I don't know what I should do, but a part of me wants to step forward to say something. Then, as if pushed from behind, I move toward the stage. The MC, a middle-aged man with a smooth voice, is preparing to introduce the ceremony. I raise my hand, signaling him to stop. He looks at me, surprised, but I don't give him a chance to speak. I grab the microphone, my heart pounding like it's about to burst out of my chest. "Hello, everyone," I say, my voice ringing through the silent hall. All eyes turn to me, from the guests to the media. Brielle stares at me, eyes wide, as if trying to stop me. Noah lowers his head, his hands clenched. "I'm Bodie Dwyer, the groom's brother. And today I'm not here to ruin my brother's special day, but I need to say something because the man standing there," I point to my grandfather, "deserves to be heard." I take a deep breath, feeling like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. My grandfather, Walter Dwyer, is a Korean War veteran. He sacrificed part of his body to protect this country so we could all sit here today. He came to the rehearsal dinner last night with the pride of a grandfather wanting to see his grandson happy. But he was insulted, deemed unworthy just because he didn't fit the perfect image of a wedding. I wrote about it, and now the world is talking about it. Not because I wanted fame, but because I wanted people to remember that honor, courage, and sacrifice never go out of style. The hall is so quiet I can hear my own breathing. A few people start wiping away tears. I see my mom, her hand covering her mouth, eyes red. My dad lifts his head, looking at me with an expression I've never seen, a mix of pride and pain. My grandfather stands there, leaning on his crutches, his eyes bright but silent. My grandfather doesn't need fame, I continue, my voice trembling with emotion. He just needs family. But our family stayed silent when he was humiliated. I stayed silent too, and that's something I'll regret for the rest of my life. Today I stand here, not to ruin this wedding, but to say that we can't build happiness on indifference. If we don't honor people like my grandfather, we don't deserve what they sacrificed for us. I pause, my throat tightening. A few people in the hall start clapping, sporadically at first, then growing into a resounding wave of applause. Brielle stands frozen, clutching her wedding dress. Noah looks at me, his eyes red, but he still doesn't speak. Some guests from the groom's side begin to stand quietly, leaving the hall, as if they can't bear the stifling atmosphere any longer. I step down and return to my grandfather's side. He takes my hand, squeezing it gently. "You did well," he whispers, his voice hoarse. I only nod, unable to speak. I did what I had to do, but I know things will never be the same from now on. The banquet hall still echoes with applause, but it's uneven. Some guests, particularly those from the groom's side, stand and leave in silence, their eyes full of disappointment. On the bride's side, a few whisper among themselves, their faces showing clear discomfort. Brielle stands frozen in the aisle, clutching her bouquet tightly, her face pale as if she's been slapped. Noah keeps his head down, hands stuffed in his suit pockets, as if trying to shrink away from the storm I've just unleashed. I look at my brother, hoping for a glance, a word, anything to show me he's still Noah, the little brother I used to run through the cornfields with in Fairview, laughing under the summer sun. But Noah doesn't look at me. He just stands there, silent as a statue. The applause fades, and the atmosphere in the hall grows more stifling than ever. I help my grandfather sit in a nearby chair, feeling his hands tremble slightly. He doesn't say anything more, but his eyes, once bright when he told stories of his war days, are now clouded as if he's trying to hide his pain. I want to hug him, to tell him everything will be okay, but I'm not sure I can promise that. Suddenly, a deep voice rings out from the entrance of the hall. "Sorry for interrupting," it says, strong and clear, drawing every eye. I turn and see Frank, the veteran who served with my grandfather, striding in, dressed in his old military uniform, medals glinting on his chest. Behind him is another man, tall with salt and pepper hair, dressed in an elegant black suit. I recognize him. Mayor James Carver of Lincoln, a familiar face from local TV with his speeches about community. Frank steps onto the stage, taking the microphone from the MC, who looks flustered and unsure of what to do. "I'm Frank Delaney," he says, his voice resonating through the hall. "I served in the Korean War alongside Walter Dwyer, the man you insulted." He points to my grandfather, and all eyes turn to us again. My heart pounds, unsure of what's coming. Frank continues, his voice full of emotion but resolute. "Walter Dwyer is a soldier, a friend, and a hero. He saved my life and many others on the battlefield. But more importantly, he's a man who never asked for recognition. He's lived his life with humility, and today we're here to ensure that humility is honored." Mayor Carver steps forward, holding a small, intricately carved wooden box. He opens it, revealing a medal gleaming under the chandelier's light. "This is the Silver Star," he says, his voice deep and clear. "It was lost for many years in the chaos after the war. But through the efforts of the veteran community, we've recovered it. And today, in front of all of you, I want to present this medal to Walter Dwyer, the man who deserves it more than anyone." The hall erupts in applause, not the scattered claps from earlier, but a thunderous, emotional ovation. A few people stand, their eyes red. I look at my grandfather, who shakes his head as if he can't believe what's happening. "Come on up, Walter," Frank calls, his voice warm. I help my grandfather stand, feeling the weight of each step he takes. He leans on his crutches, moving slowly to the stage, each step carrying the weight of a lifetime. When he stands before Mayor Carver, he says nothing, only nodding slightly. Carver pins the medal to the chest of my grandfather's old suit, and in that moment I see his eyes light up, as if he's become the young soldier he once was. "Walter Dwyer," Carver says, "thank you for all you've done for this country and our community." The applause roars again, lasting longer this time, like a belated apology from everyone in the hall. I look around, seeing my mom wipe away tears, my dad nodding with a face full of pride. But then I look at Noah and my heart tightens. He stands at the edge of the stage, eyes red, hands clenched. I see him trembling, as if wrestling with himself. Then, as if driven by an invisible force, Noah steps onto the stage. The crowd falls silent, waiting. He looks at our grandfather, then at me, and finally he kneels before him, his voice trembling. "Grandpa, I'm sorry," he says, tears streaming down his face. "I stayed silent too long. I let you be insulted. I don't deserve to be your grandson." My grandfather leans down, placing a hand on Noah's shoulder. "Get up, Noah," he says, his voice gentle but firm. "You're my grandson. You don't need to kneel. But Noah shakes his head, tears still falling. I was wrong, Grandpa. I let Brielle say those things and I did nothing. I can't live with that guilt. Brielle, standing in the aisle, suddenly shouts, her voice shrill, cutting through the air. Noah, what are you doing? This is our wedding day. She storms onto the stage, her face flushed with anger. You can't do this. You can't let your family ruin everything. Noah stands, turning to Brielle. For the first time, I see his eyes free of fear or hesitation. Brielle, he says, his voice calm but icy. I loved you, but I can't love someone who doesn't respect my family. I can't marry you. The hall explodes in shocked whispers. Brielle stands frozen, her bouquet falling to the floor. What did you say? She snaps. You can't do this to me. But Noah doesn't look at her anymore. He turns to our grandfather, hugging him tightly. I'm sorry, Grandpa, he whispers. I'll never stay silent again. My grandfather pats Noah's shoulder, smiling. You're a good man, Noah. I always knew that. Brielle spins around, running out of the hall, her wedding dress trailing behind her. Her mother chases after her, shouting something about fixing this. Guests begin to stand, leaving in a chaotic exodus. Some shake their heads, others clap as if witnessing a tragic play. I stand there beside my grandfather, feeling both relieved and pained. The wedding has fallen apart, but my family, at least part of it, has come back together. The banquet hall gradually empties, leaving behind only the silk-draped tables and wilting rose centerpieces under the chandelier's glow. The violin music has stopped, replaced by the murmurs of the few remaining guests and the hurried footsteps of hotel staff. I help my grandfather sit down, sensing the exhaustion in his movements. He looks at me, offering a faint smile, but his eyes carry an indescribable sadness. You didn't have to do all this for me, he says, his voice hoarse. But I'm proud of you, Bodhi. Very proud. My parents approach, their faces a mix of emotions, pride and regret. My mom hugs Noah, then turns to my grandfather. Dad, I'm sorry, she says, her voice choking. I didn't say anything that night. I left you alone. Don't cry, Ellen, my grandfather replies. Our family is still here, that's what matters. My dad, usually reserved, steps forward and embraces my grandfather. Dad, I'm proud to be your son, he says, his voice low but steady. I've never seen my dad like this. A tough man who always hides his emotions, now revealing his vulnerability. In the days that follow, the fallout from the ruined wedding spreads like a tsunami. My post continues to be shared. Major newspapers, from the Lincoln Journal-Star to the New York Times, cover the story with headlines like, Veteran Insulted at Wedding, A Lesson in Gratitude. The Halston family becomes the target of widespread criticism. Their fashion brand, Halston Couture, faces a fierce boycott, with countless customers declaring on Twitter they'll no longer buy from a family ungrateful to veterans. Their stores in Lincoln and Omaha report sharp drops in sales, and the parent company's stock plummets on the exchange. Brielle, in a desperate attempt to salvage her reputation, posts an apology on Instagram, but it only makes things worse. I didn't mean to offend anyone, she writes, but I just wanted my wedding to be perfect. The post is met with fierce backlash, with thousands of comments calling her callous and arrogant. By that evening, Brielle deletes her social media accounts, vanishing from the spotlight she once craved. I received dozens of interview requests from TV stations and newspapers, even an offer from a New York publisher to write a book about the story. I decline most, not because I don't want to share, but because I don't want to turn my grandfather's pain into a source of profit. But I agree to a short interview with a local paper just to talk about my grandfather, his life, his sacrifices, and the lesson he taught me. That honor lies not in appearances, but in what you do when no one is watching. My grandfather unexpectedly becomes a symbol. Veteran groups across Nebraska hold events to honor him, calling him the humble soldier. A school in Lincoln even names a hall after him, the Walter Dwyer Hall. He just laughs when he hears the news, shaking his head. They're making too much of it, Bodhi, he says. I'm just an old man who likes growing tomatoes. But I know he's proud. Even if he doesn't say it, I see it in his eyes when he receives thank you letters from young veterans, from students who read his story, from strangers who stop by my mom's convenience store to say they cried reading my post. Noah, after the wedding's collapse, moves out of the mansion he shared with Brielle in Lincoln. He returns to Fairview, living in a small house near my dad's repair shop. He quits his job at the bank, saying he needs time to find himself again. I see him change, no longer the polished guy in a suit, but a more authentic Noah, visiting our grandfather often, helping him in the garden, and talking to me like we did when we were kids. One afternoon, as we sit on my grandfather's porch, Noah takes my hand and says quietly, "Thank you, Bodhi. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have realized how wrong I was." I just nod and pat his shoulder. "We're brothers, Noah. Always will be." Our family slowly reconnects. My mom starts calling me more often, checking on my life in Denver, reminding me to wear a jacket when it's cold. My dad, still taciturn, begins sending me short texts, often just a photo of a car he's fixing with a caption like, "This one's tougher than your writing." I smile every time I get one, feeling the love he hides behind his gruff exterior. I return to Denver after a week in Fairview, carrying a new sense of purpose. My small apartment is the same, window overlooking the alley, the sound of stray cats chasing each other at night. But I feel different. I open my laptop and reread the email from the New York newspaper. The job offer is still there, but I know I'm not ready to leave Substack, not ready to give up the stories I want to tell. I reply to the email, thanking them for the opportunity but politely declining. "I still have a lot of stories to write," I type, "and I want to write them my way." In the weeks that follow, I receive letters from readers, not just from Nebraska, but from across the country. They share stories of their grandparents, their parents, their loved ones. People who were also overlooked, forgotten. Each letter is a story, and I read them with a sense that I've done something bigger than myself. I haven't conquered the world, but I've awakened a part of it. My grandfather still lives in his small wooden house in Fairview, still tends his garden, still writes me letters every month. But now his letters carry something new, a confidence, a joy I hadn't seen before. In one letter he writes, "Bodhi, you gave me a gift greater than any medal. You showed me that my story still matters." I sit in my small Denver apartment, the afternoon sunlight streaming through the window, casting golden streaks across the wooden floor. On the table is a cold cup of coffee, my laptop open, and a new letter from my grandfather delivered this morning. His slanted handwriting, penned in ink on yellowed paper, carries the warmth of his Fairview garden. "Bodhi, yesterday I saw a hawk fly over. It still soars high like the day you came home. Don't forget to soar high, my boy." I smile, my eyes stinging. My grandfather never says much, but every word is like a breeze pushing me forward. The story of my grandfather, the ruined wedding, and my post has spread further than I ever imagined. It's not just a story about a veteran being insulted, it's a reminder of the value of gratitude, the power of a single voice, and our responsibility to those who are forgotten. Over the past months, I've received hundreds of letters from readers, veterans, ordinary workers, young students, all sharing their own stories. Each letter is a ripple, and I know those ripples began with one small decision: to not stay silent. And I realize the world doesn't change through grand gestures, but through people who dare to stand up, even with just a small voice. My advice to anyone hearing this story is, find your reason, stand up for it, and never be afraid to speak the truth. Because as my grandfather taught me, one person standing up is enough to change everything. I tuck his letter into the old wooden box. Denver's sunlight still spills gold over the narrow alley, and I know no matter where I go, I'll always carry my grandfather's story and its message in my heart.